Two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Delusions of Grandeur. I am one of your hosts, but today we are going to be talking about a movie that our good friend Boris happened to choose. So, why don't you tell us exactly what movie you subjected us to this week
Oh
after
yeah,
having an interesting Easter holiday?
yeah. Interesting enough. Just after Easter, I picked a movie based on a biblical story, which is one of my favorite biblical stories generally. Although I will admit that this movie didn't quite turn out to be what I expected. It was the movie Head of a Tyrant from 1959, actually an Italian movie dubbed to English. The original title is Giuditta e Oloferne, which is Judith and Holofernes for those who have read the story of Judith in the Bible. Well, it's a deuterocanonical book. It's not there in every copy of the Bible, but it is in some particular editions. Let's see what IMDb says about the movie. It
And I
was
believe
direct.
it's one of two beheadings in the Bible. The other beheading was the beheading of John the Baptist, if I
Uh,
remember
uh,
correctly.
yes, yes, that's true. Uh, this would be the other one. Actually, I'm not sure if there were some others. Can't remember off the top of my mind. Uh, so the movie was directed by Fernando Cerchio, if I pronounce that correctly, written by Gian Paolo Calegari, Fernando Cerchio, and Damiano Damiani, and it stars Massimo Girotti, Isabel Cori, and Renato Baldini. And it
Among others.
says, uh, yeah, and it says a beautiful girl plans to seduce and then murder the brutal conqueror who has taken over her city. So, shall we go into first impressions? Was this the first time watch for you, and what did you think of the movie? Let's go with ladies first. Tammy.
Yeah, it was my first time. I'm sorry, dearie, but I thought it was kind of boring. Um, I thought the costumes were good. Um, the storyline wasn't too bad, but I don't know if it was just how we ended up watching it that it almost seemed like it was in parts like spliced together, and some of the vocal and stuff was hard to hear at times, or then we get louder and then softer, and it. Like I
Oh,
said, I don't know if it was just because of how we had to watch it, if that had something to do with it, or
It did.
because it was an older movie, how they put it to video. You know, um, I don't know, but the movie itself, I I've watched a lot of movies that had this sword fighting and all that, and then from that time, and it just, I'm sorry, it just didn't have as much action as I'm used to, and those and everything. I don't know. It was okay, but I've seen I've seen a lot better that have that type of a theme.
mm,
So
y- yeah, I can see why. Oh, what about you, Kroll?
Okay, so I watched it on my TV. One of the free TV apps had it. I can't tell you. I don't remember the name of it. Sword and Sandal, I think it was called something different. Had to download the app, but it was free. So I watched it on my TV. So I didn't have an issue with the sound going up and down. So I didn't have a problem with the sound. Um,
Ooh.
that said, that was probably it was dubbed very well. I mean, I've seen stuff dubbed nowadays that aren't as well done, especially for a foreign country. So they did a top notch job on that. That said, unfortunately, that was about all they did a top notch on. um, the direction wasn't the best. The writing was not so great. The wardrobe did not fit the story. I don't think the only part of the wardrobe that I thought was nice was the dancing girl. Now again, I don't think that even fit either. But I could be wrong there. Not
Um,
positive. But I
yeah.
liked it because, well, it was visually appealing. The women in the movie were good looking, and Judith, she was especially good looking. And there was one line in the movie I did laugh, so it wasn't completely unenjoyable like the movie 2 weeks ago. Sorry, Dave, but I had to say that again. Um, but yeah, it definitely severely lacked action, and severely lacked good action when we actually got very little action. It seemed very low budget during the action more than the rest of the movie. Like the rest of the movie seemed okay budget, like no Hollywood budget or anything, but even for that time, but it just really felt fake. The way they shot the arrows and sound and everything. It was I mean, I understand this is 1959, but I've seen other movies of the era, and yeah, it doesn't compare at all. You know, other movies, which I don't know off the top of my head what to compare it to, but yeah. So it failed in everywhere except for hiring some decent actors. I guess the actors weren't that bad. I mean, it's a little bit of overacting, but that was popular during that time period, so I won't count that against them. And the overacting wasn't too bad. So, yeah, I'll give them that the acting was pretty decent, and they all, the women looked nice. I'm sure the men does do too, but I don't look at men, so yeah, I can't comment on that. Yeah, so that's unfortunately about as nice as I can say about the movie. Um, Hopefully next week, Tammy will give us a selection we all enjoy. It's been a while since I enjoyed a movie that I've had to watch, so let's go, Tammy. Give us something good.
I already have it picked.
I thought you were next week.
Yeah, I already have a movie picked.
Oh, I thought you said I already had a pick. Okay. Misunderstood you. All right, then we'll look forward to that, and I hope it's something good. Maybe you can tell us what it is at the end of the show, since you already know.
Yep, I already know. And it is good.
Well,
oh,
you chose it, so if you've seen it, you're probably gonna like it. I mean, Dave's would have said the same thing from last week, or 2 weeks ago. I just hope I agree.
uh, okay. And okay, sorry, Kroll, is that it, or do you have anything else to add?
No, that's it.
Okay, and what about you, Dave?
Well, normally I like sword and sandal films. Normally I like films that have biblical backgrounds. And before I even watched this movie, I read what it was about. So I had to actually look up the story. I know I've read the Bible, but I don't remember this story in the Bible, so I had to
Me neither.
I had to reread like what it was about and why why it might be based off that story. And in the original story, when she beheads him, he's actually drunk as a fish. You know,
Uh,
that's what I read of the original story. He,
yeah.
yeah, he gets like inebriated, and she's able to like cut his head off because he's drunk.
Um,
Um, so that didn't happen. We get more of a dramatic thing.
That would have been like the best part of the movie.
right.
Instead, we get a whole storyline where it seems like he's actually like trying to be good, like trying to say, hey, because I love you, it looks like I can change. I feel like singing Saddam from South Park. I can change. I can change.
I can change. I can change.
Jeez.
Yeah. It was kind of like Saddam from South Park. Good comparison. Only nowhere near as entertaining.
But what's interesting here is I see similarities in like the movie 300. I don't know if any of you remember that movie where we had Spartans and warriors who thought they were gods. Well, in here we've got a general of
Normal
the Syrian army called Holofernes, who has called himself a god to his men. So because they think he is a god, that is why he has such a strong hold on all of them. And I thought it was interesting how because like some of the people in the city didn't want to come out and present themselves, he like had them shot down. But in a way, it wasn't just a shooting down; it was more like a sacrifice to the gods. That was interesting. But this was a first time watch for me. It was the first time knowing about like the story, and I like the fact that there was a beheading in here, even though we didn't see her like cut the head or anything like that. But
I must have blinked
yeah,
and missed it.
she cut the head off and brought it out to the armies. The armies ended up whatever, but we'll get into that. I'm jumping the gun before we even begin. Again, I get that, but anyways, I thought it was I thought it was somewhat entertaining. I mean, you had this backstory of these people who are Israelites, and they basically get these soldiers that come into the city, ahead of the army that invades their city, and saying, "Hey, we're coming to your city. Just be aware that we are, and we could have killed you if we wanted to. You're one of the ones that we left alive. So just be aware that we're coming and invading your city. Like they gave them notice, So I thought that was interesting, and I think there were bits of it that I was entertained with. The wardrobe was kind of questionable. I thought for the leader, having that little like clipped hair piece was kind of like interesting, but I don't know. Parts of it were entertaining to me. I wasn't as bored as Tammy was, but it was definitely on the slow side. So I'm not saying that I was trying to find like things that I was interested in, but there are things that I could point out that were slightly interesting. So
Yeah. So in my case, this was the first time I watched this movie too. I have wanted to watch it for a while because, like I said, the story of Judith is one of my favorite biblical stories. But yeah, as you have already said, in the Bible, that story is much different, and I thought it would be more like that one. In the Bible, Judith is pretty much like that time version of an undercover agent, and the moment when she kills Holofernes it's not a sad moment at all. It's really cool and badass, and it also inspired me for some details in my writing, and I kind of expected this movie would be something like that, but evidently they decided to take some liberties. They actually changed a lot of the story so much that, in my opinion, they could have as well changed the ending too. Um, so yeah, in this case, with all the changes they made, this ending is not glorious at all. So I wish they had either stayed more true to the original story, or if they were going for some reimagining, then I wish they had made a more fitting ending too. But
Well, I do know that they actually did have in 1923 did a silent film based on the story, which I read somewhere that was a previous version. So I don't know whether it was faithfully adapted or not. It's a silent film, so I don't know. But this technically is a reimagining of the tale. Uh,
I wish
what
I had a better reimagination.
I I think it is, since we don't have a store a previous like a nowadays version. I think it would be time for one. To be honest, I would
oh,
like.
Yeah, it's an idea that they haven't milked to death, and it actually seems like I haven't I've read the Bible too, and I don't remember the story either. So,
um,
but
uh,
I think it sounds like it could be a good story if
uh,
done well.
Yeah,
that you probably don't remember it because it actually doesn't appear in in many editions of the Bible. It's a
I wonder if it's
deuterocanonical book.
I read the King James.
yeah. I
Oh,
read the games too.
it's probably not in that one. I think it's I
Yeah,
think it's
I think like Americans, like that's just like the go-to Bible for Americans, whether no matter where you live. Just seems to me King James
uh,
is just like the definitive version for us, and there's probably much better versions out there, but I'm probably not in English, and that's a lot of the problem with the Bible, not the Bible itself, but more the interpretations of the Bible, and the way that churches think what it meant.
And what's interesting is, I believe, um, historically, um, when Pocahontas got married to um, an Englishman from England at the time, she was one of the first ones to give King James a English translation of the King James Bible, and and give him the version that we have today, I believe.
I didn't know that.
ooh,
Um, from what I remember, because it was, I believe it was Tisdale that translated the version of the James that we have now. I can be wrong, but that's what I remember. The little bits of historical detail.
ooh, interesting. Ooh. So yeah, I must say, although some ideas they had for this movie were interesting, all in all, I must admit I am not very happy with the way they deviated from the original story. And another issue I had with the movie was I watched it on YouTube, which is with a not very good sound quality. So since English is not my first language, there were parts I struggled to understand. Um, I wish the movie had a better release, like on DVD or Blu-ray, because in that case it would have probably been available with
I
better audio
definitely think that
quality.
it needs a bit of a cleanup. Like I definitely think the great they definitely need to iron out the music behind the movie and the sound quality. If they could find
And
like
it felt like it was spliced together in a lot of parts. Where like it would like go blip like a blip and then start a different scene.
it
And
almost
then it
felt
would
like
like
we were watching like a a a working copy, like something that hadn't been edited yet. You know.
Huh. Yeah, there were some moments when I noticed some strange glitches and stuff. Like a part the scene changes and a part of the audio from the previous scene is repeated at the beginning of the next one. That happened like 2 or 3 times throughout the movie, at least this version that I was watching.
Well, I wonder if that's the same copy that DVD lady is selling. You know of
Hmm.
which I speak.
uh did you maybe buy that copy?
No, I did not. I just saw that they were selling it.
I see. Oh, so yeah, all in all, I must say I had better expectations of this movie. It was still interesting to see that story portrayed on screen, but yeah, there were many things they changed, and uh, I must say was not quite happy with it.
Yeah,
Um,
I was expecting more too once I learned a little bit more about the story, and it ended up being more of a dramatic thing. Like they were trying to draw out like some Antony and Cleopatra moments, but it wasn't quite. To me, it didn't seem like they had as much chemistry on screen too.
No,
yeah.
none of
So
them
Uh,
did. Not her and her first boyfriend, and not her and him.
oh yeah, and
Her
speaking
and the
of
boyfriend
which,
had better chemistry than her and
uh,
the king.
speaking of which, that boyfriend is made up. He doesn't exist in the Bible. Uh, in the Bible, she is a widow, and I thought when he appeared for the first time, I thought that he would be the husband who gets killed or something like that. Actually, I
I
don't
think
remember.
something happened because the child ended up getting hurt or something like that.
Uh, oh
Killed.
yes, killed. Yeah, that scene isn't in the Bible either. That child getting killed.
Yeah, because in the very beginning we see her with a man, whether or not that's her boyfriend or husband or whatnot,
yeah,
and
that's
we
her
see her
boyfriend
with a
It's her
child.
boyfriend because
Gabriel.
the dialogue she says, he gives her the necklace. Says, "Are you sure you want me to give this to you? Even though everyone will know that you gave it to me, because I guess it seemed like they have a secret love or something, and that would help
Maybe
themselves.
he's
So
just like a
yeah.
suitor.
I think
Yeah.
his name was
Well, he's not
Gabriel.
yet because he even said even my father. So in other words, he wants to become a suitor, but he's not yet. So
Isn't his name Gabriel? I thought.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, but I thought that Gabriel was one of the sons of Isaac, which is that blind man, And
No, he's not one of the sons. He just hangs out with them.
okay, so Gabriel isn't one of the sons, and I realized that one of the sons' names was David. And in the Bible, there is an Isaac and, who
And David.
and a David.
Uh,
So some of these names are biblical that we know of. Was David the son of Isaac?
no, the son of Isaac was Jacob. David was much later when they had uh, uh,
That's right, Jacob and Esau, the two brothers who couldn't get along. So
yes.
but and then I thought it was interesting that one of their city's leaders, oh, his name was not Isaac, but uh, Josach,
Uzziah.
Josiah. So Josiah, well, there was a city council of sorts for the city, and the councilmen and the leaders of the city had gotten together or gathered together after that the death of that child happened, and that's when we get a messenger of sorts from this army that's on its way of the Assyrian armies, and they're basically telling the city that oh we could have killed you if we wanted to, but we're going to come and invade your city. That's basically what their message was, and
Yes.
you better treat our god, our soldier Holofernes, with respect as he is dignified to be. He could have killed. He could choose to kill you guys. So accept him or die. That's basically the message that the herald. That's what I would say that he is. The herald was saying. Is that what you guys got from the situation?
Oh, yes, that's pretty much what he was saying. Although once again, that was something they made up for this movie. In the original story, it was different. Okay, it's been a while since I read the story of
I
Judas in
think
the
they just came
Bible.
and invaded. Uh,
Yeah, and in the Bible there was something about Holofernes shutting their water supply down, and there was also something about a man in Holofernes' army who tried to warn Holofernes that he shouldn't invade Betulia because they have a powerful god on their side. And Holofernes got upset at him, and he exiled that guy, and that guy ended up with the Betulians. I don't know what that character's name would be in English. I know in Croatian, but
what's the name
not
of this city, anyways?
Betulia.
Bethulia. Okay, so this
Uh,
is the city of Bethulia, and we have okay. So then we have the the Holofernes and his men come to the city. Correct. In fact, he comes in a chariot.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, he comes in a chariot, and he's got an entrance of sorts as he comes through, because it looks like some people like that he's coming into the city, some people don't. So I don't think he's quite besought on by arrows yet. I think he is actually comes, and then he's got the sniveling leader, right? the sniveling leader and his wife welcoming him to the city, right?
Uh, I think so. Like I said, there were parts I couldn't understand very well because the dialogues were difficult for me to distinguish when there weren't any subtitles and the audio quality wasn't great.
Well, I was expecting subtitles, so I'm surprised it was dubbed.
Ye- yeah.
So, Crow, what did you think about the entrance of this supposed tyrant, Halifax?
What did I
And,
think? What?
and what did you think about this supposed tyrant leader coming into the city and the way he was acting towards the people of
Your
Bethune?
your 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 typical tyrant. I mean, I mean, he wasn't. I mean, he was typical in arrogance, but I mean, and the things he had them do, but it really wasn't anywhere near as bad as other things I've seen. Like I said, I mean, show that he was a bad guy, but we've seen way more. We've seen way more bad guys in many other movies. So I mean, he wasn't like, oh my god, check how evil he is, or how much of a villain he is. It was just they definitely did a very lackluster job of um, of portraying a villain. I mean, they could have definitely portrayed him much better. Again, I don't really necessarily blame the actor as much as more the writing and the directing of it. You know, they just it was more like watching a play on on camera than a movie. Like there wasn't anything in it that they couldn't have done in a play even then. Like it was very lackluster for a movie. That's my
Mm,
opinion on that.
I can see why.
Okay, what about you, Tammy? What did you think of the tyrant and his entrance into the city and how he was acting? And I know that he also had a manservant, like dude protecting him and like defending his title. What did you think of those?
Um, I thought when he came in, he didn't even speak at first. That dude said everything, and it's like, okay, if you're supposed to be all this or whatever, why aren't you saying everything?
Mm,
Why is this guy? Well, you're sitting there. Why is this guy saying everything? If this is what you expect, um, and you know they wouldn't let anybody of the village speak. They kept cutting them off until they finally let that one other guy come forward, but he wasn't part of the higher group actually. You
He
know,
wasn't part of the city council. It seemed like the city council itself. They seem to be more like consisting of priests and spiritual dudes.
right? But the guy they finally let talk wasn't, to me, one of the more respected ones. The more respected ones they wouldn't even let talk.
Hmm.
But no, I thought it was a bunch of bullshit that they come in like that and just say, we're taking over and this is, you're gonna honor our God and our God only, and you're gonna do this and do that and do this, and
mm,
I just thought it
yeah.
was a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, and speaking of which, if I remember correctly, I don't think in the Bible they were putting any emphasis on what God those people were worshipping aside from their king who actually sent Holofernes, King Nebuchadnezzar, which in real life he was the Babylonian king, but in this story he was Assyrian. which
Yeah, there was
yeah,
some kind of lord that they were mentioning during the whole fact that they brought that family of people out and had them executed like on the spot because they wouldn't appear when called. Um, he asked why the people were in the city were still in their homes. Why aren't they out respecting like me? You know, and he said, "Well, they're afraid to come out." You know, so he told his soldiers to go in and like grab them, uh, get them out, and they struggled, and he told his men to shoot him down. And after that, there were two men on either side of him stating about this Lord. Apparently, it was. Do you remember the name of the Lord that he?
uh, I think in this movie they didn't mention the name, but in the original story it was King Nebuchadnezzar, and yeah, in the original story, Holofernes himself wasn't even appearing like that much of a tyrant. He was just a general leading the army. The king was the tyrant, if anyone.
Well, later on, we actually learn that there's an emperor of the Assyrians because they get a message like towards the end
Yeah,
of the movie from the emperor or whatever. So, which
uh,
makes me wonder if they didn't like entirely like know who the tyrant was throughout the film. So
yeah,
Holofernes was only a general of the army.
in the original story, yes. So I was confused how they were. Throughout a major part of this movie, they were implying that he was some sort of a tyrant, only later on to imply that he was working for some emperor, which is kind of a contradiction, if you ask me.
Well, yeah, technically, if he was their god, do gods really have rulers over them? You know?
Maybe in some mythologies there might be gods superior to other gods, but yeah, in this case that doesn't seem to work well.
But we do get a group of young men actually, who are sons of this Isaac, who is blind, who is a very well respected man, from what I understand, in the community. Um, uh, and these sons of his uh, are kind of they don't like the Assyrians, so they in fact kill several soldiers and then get away. And so Holofernes um, makes a statement saying, "Okay, in 4 days, if you guys don't give up uh, the uh, the the traitors, you all will die."
Yeah, that's also a part they made up. In the original story, there was no subplot of him threatening to kill the entire town. He was just trying to force them all to surrender, and like I said, he shut their water supply down in order to force them to surrender, and that was what pushed Judith to go and do what she did because uh, uh, her people would run out of water or something like that. But yeah, the whole idea of him killing the entire town was apparently made up for this movie.
And Judith was the daughter of Isaac, I believe. Um, and she had a servant with her, and she overheard her brothers talking about how they wished that there was a female who would have the balls to kill this guy, but this Holofernes. Um, and she seemed to be mulling it over in her mind. Um, you know that maybe she could. You know, um, she had overheard this plan, and she actually, I believe, she got dressed and she went to Holofernes with a blade, intending to kill him. Um, and her brothers kind of knew this. And well, actually, I don't think her brothers knew. Um, Someone saw her get taken to prison, and she does in fact get taken to a jail cell. But then I believe it's brought to Holofernes' attention that she came saying that he wanted to see her, and he said, and he was given the blade that she came with, and he's not stupid, uh, so he already thinks that she came to kill him, you know.
Yeah.
So he has her brought to him. What do y'all think about this whole situation? About her going to him and this whole conversation that she has with Holofernes? Tammy?
Well, she she doesn't want him to know that she was there to kill him. You know.
No, she doesn't. And so she says that that he was part of like her dreams, and she saw him, enter and saw him in all his glory. So she tried to, pass it off that she was part of her fantasies.
Right, and she only had the knife to protect herself because of because everybody's upset about them being there. So she had the knife to protect herself. So
And do you believe that he believed her at the time?
well, we all know that that's not why she had the knife, but I don't, I don't, I don't think he totally believed her, but he was intrigued by her.
Yeah, because he thought that she was very beautiful, and she was very different than the other women that he had seen from time to time. So he was not only was he intrigued, but he seemed attracted to her.
Yes,
But at least that's what I was assuming that they were going for with this. But she didn't. But actor and actress wise, there wasn't much chemistry there. Not to me. Did you?
Yeah, I honestly think they didn't choose a good actor for this role at all.
I felt like there was not much chemistry.
Yeah.
But she still insists that she didn't and wasn't there to hurt him. In fact, she wanted to be his slave and dancer by the end of that conversation. And that's when we get a part cut to where someone had noticed her going to prison. So the brothers are told that she's in prison. So, and I think Isaac, the blind father, overhears this, and he's
Hmm.
like telling his sons, "Hey, why didn't you tell me that this was going to go on and whatnot?" So I believe the brothers end up trying to go over to the prison and hatching a plan to maybe try to help her escape. But when they get there, they don't even see her there. You know,
Uh, yeah, is that the part when Holofernes has already had her sent to that bedroom instead of the prison cell?
well, uh, see, she also dances for him.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So there is kind of a sexual ness in here that you see. But here's the thing. Um, I kept thinking, this would look so totally cool if she wasn't wearing underwear. I mean,
I
you could
bet
see
you
her
do.
pantaloons, and so when she did the somersaults and stuff like that, like you could see that she was wearing something underneath that. Like if she wasn't wearing anything underneath that, I could so totally like believe that this was a cool dancing. You know, I hate to say this. I
There you
get it.
go. Yeah, Parv.
Don't you agree, Crow?
I think for the 50s, you saw as much as you got to see.
That may be true, but you know, I was expecting a little bit more for that type of a scene,
Did
even
you
though I
forget
know
that
it's
what year it was?
1959.
I know. So did you forget that? Like,
Yeah,
I
I
could
got
show
that.
more.
Yeah, but this is an Italian production. They're supposed to exude sexuality.
Surprise.
I know. It just it just disappointed me that you couldn't see um, Bush, or at least some sensuality, But I believe that they were trying to somewhat have the Christian message in this movie too, because uh, the one God, belief in one God, it was kind of pushed a little bit in this movie, don't you think?
A little bit, yeah. Well, Christian or maybe rather Jewish, since this is an Old Testament story.
Yeah, which involved some Old Testament justice.
Yeah.
But we get kind of a love story here because that I don't think was in the original story. I
No.
think it was just a straight assassination.
Well, in the original story, there was a little bit about Holofernes falling in love with Judith, but not vice versa. He was showing a little bit of a romantic side, if I remember correctly. But on her part, it was all fake. She was
Okay, so
acting
it was
pretty
all
much.
one-sided.
Oh, yes, she was pretty much acting like an undercover agent.
Okay, so she didn't ultimately fall back in love with him, like in
I-
this story.
in that version, no, there is a novel written by a Croatian writer, but that's a fairly modern novel. Actually, I'm not sure when it was written, but yeah, there is a Croatian novel about Judith where she does fall in love with Holofernes. But that's yet another version of the story, which is maybe more accurate to the biblical version, just more expanded and told from her point of view. i- in this case, they really made up a lot of things that are completely incompatible with the original story.
which means it was completely bullshit.
Yeah, like even the story of her being imprisoned and having that dagger that Holofernes saw, that wasn't in the original either. I
Okay.
think it,
So ultimately, she ended up getting a hold of a weapon and cut off his head, and that's pretty much the story that we get that she was basically an assassin for her people, basically.
uh, yeah, pretty much. And her servant was there too. And yeah, she was. I think she spent 3 days with Holofernes, and she gained his trust. And yeah, then she got. If I remember, it was her who got him drunk, or maybe he was just drinking with those other men there. I'm not sure now, but yeah, he got drunk and she did what she did, and it was a kind of badass moment when she killed him. It
And
was
still,
not
he got drunk with love, and she killed him.
a yeah, that's probably true.
But what did you, Kroll, think of the dancing scene?
That was the best scene. You know, she was a very talented dancer, and like I said, she was good looking, and yeah, it was enjoyable. Like I said, that was definitely the scene where I paid more attention to the movie. Um, yeah,
Okay.
it was I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the scene. It was good.
And I think this is the first time I've actually seen these types of animals fighting against each other. There was, I think, during uh, where they were actually sleeping with each other, and she came out. I believe he was watching a fight between two cobras and a ferret, or what looked like a ferret.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't sure what that animal was. I'm glad to know I'm not the only one.
Well, it looked like a ferret to me. Uh,
Yeah.
like a version of a ferret. I'm not sure if it was a ferret, but it looked like a ferret to me. But there were two cobras fighting a ferret, and it looked like the ferret won. But this is where stock footage came into play. Um, where you see Holofernes and his men keep looking at the fight. They used that scenery like 3 or 4 times for them to show that they were spending time watching down at this fight. But you could tell it was the same fucking scenes, you know. Um, and this was just to show the barbaricness of his men and their people. They enjoy watching creatures fight to the death, you know,
Oh,
um,
oh,
for sport.
that could be it. Although maybe I also thought that it might be like foreshadowing of what's going to happen. Like in this case, the ferret, which is smaller and much less threatening animal than a cobra, it defeats the cobra, right? Which I guess is like a foreshadowing of what Judith ends up doing to Holofernes.
That's an interesting idea. That the people will uprise, and you know these people may surprise them, and they did. Um, I'm sure we didn't expect with this love story going on that she was actually going to, you know, take and do the dirty deed. You know,
Mm,
that what I'm not sure whether they expected her to cut off his head, but it was definitely something that helped in the end. You know,
uh,
but we have the brothers, and one of the brothers actually comes and visits her, and he's going there under the guise that she's going to come home with him, and that she was imprisoned, and she's telling him, "Hey, I want to stay here. I think I
It
can
wasn't
change."
one of the brothers. That was Gabriel.
yeah, I think so too.
Okay, that was Gabriel.
Yes.
Okay, I thought that he was like a brother.
No, that's the one that he even says, "I thought we were gonna get married and we were gonna have our life. What happened to our plans?"
Okay. See, that I didn't understand. I was assuming that he was a brother. That's where I got confused about who.
I knew it was Gabriel.
Um, I knew it was Gabriel, but I thought Gabriel was one of the sons, and I just didn't connect
Why
that.
would you? Why would you think that? Why he's the one who gave her the necklace that he made in the beginning,
Yeah,
and
but
they talked about everybody knowing that he gave it to her and that they were in love and
I guess I just didn't connect the two, and I kind of assumed that
well, did you think
uh,
you were watching
they were
Did you think
brother
you
and
were watching
sister,
Game of
and he was
Thrones?
just giving her a necklace.
Did you think you were watching Game of Thrones?
No. But I didn't connect like you guys did in the beginning that was her lover. I thought that he was a family member giving her a nice necklace, and then their brother or a child in the see, that's where I got a little confused because the child was killed, but how was the child killed? I saw that the
They
Syrians
shot him with an
uh,
showed up.
arrow. That was like the
yeah.
one scene in the movie. He ran out to get his little pet sheep because they were hurting all the others away. He picked up the sheep and the guy on horse shot him with an arrow. And he fell over. And it was like the worst scene ever. It was just so horribly done.
Well, I guess that's when I blinked, and then suddenly the child was being brought into the city and all that
Well,
jazz.
I I blinked when his head got chopped off and they didn't show it. So guess I didn't miss anything.
Well, I must have missed a couple of things from the beginning, but I got most of the gist of the story. Now that I know that they were lovers, now it makes sense because then he went back to the brothers, and they um, basically got prepared for battle. In fact, there was a couple of people who came and joined their resistance, and
Are we up to the part where they kill the merchant?
yeah, the merchant wasn't just a merchant; he was also the guy that was speaking for the people. You know,
All right, because that's what the king said. You will now speak for your people. As far as I'm concerned, you're the highest official there. Yeah, I just call him merchant because that's what he was. He was only
well,
given
yes,
he
that
wasn't
is
given
what he
that
was.
title by the people of his town. He was given it to by this so-called king that was hoarding over the people.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We get this whole moment where you know they turn on the merchant because he was basically being not being someone for the people. In fact, they'd rather die fighting, you know, than be people that are under like leadership. You know, they.
Mm,
I mean, and that's basically what it is that they didn't want to be enslaved. You know, isn't it? It's like
uh,
any kind of people in history. Anytime someone comes in and claims to call the shots, they're like, "Well, what the fuck, dude? We were just fine before you came along, you know.
yeah.
Just because you wanted to stamp your foot in the ground and call this your land because you want to conquer it, doesn't mean it's yours, you know."
Uh, Pretty much.
But they end up killing him, taking the wife along, and taking the people that were evidently with the merchant at the time with them in their um, rebellion that they were beginning to uh, shape themselves up for. Because you could see that they were readying bows, and it actually looked by the end that they had actually gathered quite a number of the city to overtake take the rest of the soldiers. You
That
know.
kind of reminds me of another story where there's a rebellion and they rebel against the evil dictators and take them out. It's a little story called Star Wars.
What story is that?
Star Wars.
Ah! Didn't expect that comparison.
Just a little bit. I
Star,
could see that.
Star Wars is in everything, and
And
everything is
you
in
see
Star Wars.
Star Wars in everything.
What?
You see Star Wars in everything.
I just said Star Wars is in everything. And everything is in Star Wars.
Well, this was before Star Wars, so
Yes, I know that.
maybe George Lucas saw this movie and used a little bit
No,
of
I
the
don't think so.
Ah,
I've watched a lot of things where he got his inspiration from, and actually, they're more from most from Japanese samurai movies that like the Jimbo type stuff that Mo
which
likes.
we haven't even even though Mo was like the front runner for wanting to watch some of those. We haven't even watched the movie that technically Star Wars was based on, which was called The Hidden Fortress.
Oh, I
So
know.
I wouldn't mind checking that out eventually. Um, I haven't seen it myself. I own it, but um, in any case, um, did you want to bring us towards the end, Boris?
oh, so uh, yeah, near the end we get the infamous scene when Judith beheads Holofernes, which I must admit I hoped they would change the ending because they changed so much in this story that and yeah, on the actual title, well, okay, that's the English title, not the original, Head of a Tyrant, but there are these promo images showing Judith holding his head, and yeah, it was obviously a reference to the original story, and that's the culmination of the movie. Yet you get to see it on promo pictures before actually watching the movie, which kind of spoils it for those who didn't read the original story. So all that made me hope that there would be some twist that the story wouldn't really end the way people who read the original expected, but then yeah, they changed so much, but left the ending the way it was,
Hey,
which
I didn't. know the original story before watching this, and I don't think Tammy knew the original story before
And I didn't know the original story.
and Crow didn't know. So I guess it worked for the time,
Mm, yeah, but
but
I mean, since
the production should have been a hell of a lot better, and the sound quality. Well, that's got to be cleaned up. I could see someone going back and touching it up, making it look clearer, making the music behind it clearer, um, and maybe maybe if they found like more pieces to make it not look so choppy in areas, to make it look like it's flowing better.
oh
I could see
yeah,
them going back and doing something like that, but it hasn't quite happened yet, and I hope that someone picks this movie up and presents it better. You know,
oh yeah, that would be interesting. Uh,
Maybe they
all
should just take it from the original story and not from this movie.
well, I
uh,
wouldn't mind reimagining like a current like director going and
Well,
redoing.
that's what I'm saying from the original story.
Yeah, from the original story. I agree.
uh,
I
yeah,
think I think there needs to be a readaptation of this movie, and I hope it happens eventually soon. So
that would be interesting. And I must say, since there were parts of the dialogues that I kind of struggled to distinguish, and they changed a lot in this story compared to the original. Like, here we had this whole part of Judith hesitating to kill Holofernes. Like, there was a part when, from what I understood, she didn't want to do it at all, but eventually she did it she eventually decided to do it after all. And there was also this part where Ozaya got killed, which that didn't happen in the original at all, and I didn't understand that part much either. So can someone maybe tell me what exactly happened here? Why was Ozaya killed, and
because
how
he seemed to be kissing the Assyrians' ass. He seemed to be going along with whatever they were saying, and that's not what the people wanted. This
oh
merchant. So when he was telling them, "Hey, uh, they'll be mad if you kill me," when honestly, Holofernes wasn't mad at all. In fact, he was. In fact, it was his manservant dude who was making such a stink over it. He said, "Hey, uh, they weren't he wasn't an Assyrian. It could have been just a robbery." But and he was like, "But they left everything that was his there." He's like, "It's not Assyrian. He wasn't Assyrian. It's not our business."
yeah, and that whole part was also made up in the original. There was nothing like Ozaya turning bad or getting killed. And what actually happened uh, uh, near the end when Judith decided to kill him after all? What was that about?
I feel like I feel like the original story was a lot more calculated. She went in to seduce him, and then when she could, she killed him. That
Yes,
that is what happened in the Bible, and that it was a straight up murder.
yes,
Whereas here, there was a time for her to fall in love, time for her to have a moment of should I or shouldn't I, and then she finally her her hate of him and the fact that she had the same, you know, thoughts inside her head that her brothers had, in getting him out of their lands, won over, and she decided, well, I, I honestly think my family will like me better if he's dead. Okay, let's kill him. You know.
uh, but didn't something actually happen that pushed her to make that decision?
It was just the right time and the right opportunity. It's not that she wanted to or to by now. It's just the sword was over there, and the opportunity presented itself.
Oh,
And the original idea of what she was supposed to be there to do kind of resonated, you know, and strongly. But
yeah,
then she, in this movie, she ultimately regretted it. That's why she was like, "Kill me now," you know.
yes,
She wanted to be dead, and I guess they hadn't quite thought it through towards the end. Like they could have actually had her take up a sword and kill herself, but could they present that on screen at this point in time? I'm not sure.
Ooh, I'm not sure either.
Would that have been better for her? I think so. If she would have killed herself, then I would have then I would have believed her love a little bit more.
Ooh, good point.
What about you guys? What did you guys think about the ending? Do you think it was good, Tammy?
I wish we would have seen her chop his head off, but
Well,
Oh,
that
he had the
wouldn't be
he
so
had the
easy
chest
to
of
portray.
I mean, even as
but
bad as they
yeah,
do, they could at least try to do something. They didn't even attempt to even like show her like stab at him and then show a head rolling down or popping down or anything. I mean, it could have been cheesily done and still done something better than nothing.
it was a straight cut shot. She let the sword fall, and then we saw her coming out with the head. You know, that was it.
Mm, yeah.
There was
Well,
no, like Crow said.
well, uh, uh, okay, you guys first, then I will provide my thoughts on it.
Oh, the production.
No, the beheading scene.
Oh well, I think we pretty much said what we thought.
Oh,
We basically think we should have seen at least a couple of neck slices.
oh, well, yeah, maybe it could have been portrayed a little bit better, although I can somewhat see for that time period why it
No,
probably wasn't so easy.
no, I've seen way better production in that time period.
But did you
We could
see
have seen
any?
cut the head off and then uh, take the bloody head bleeding down a hallway and then out the door. I would have seen that. I could have seen that.
Uh, yeah, but did you see any beheading scene in such an old movie?
Clash of the Titans.
Huh.
Clash of the Titans. He cuts the head of Medusa off, and at
That was
least
awesome.
he sticks it in a bag, and you see the blood trailing wherever he goes. You know, and of course the blood turns things into scorpions and turns dead like live things into large like larger than life things, So,
Interesting.
and that was done by claymation of it. So,
Who?
which I like the original better than I like the remake. So that's enough said.
I like the remake better than the original.
The remake, the dude looked at the owl and threw it in a
What?
pile of garbage, and then we didn't have the owl at all. In fact, the actor actually said the owl was stupid, and that's why he didn't want it as part of the movie.
Oh.
Okay, Philip.
Okay.
Yeah, that actor was an asshole because I think the owl definitely made part of the movie. So that
Uh,
actor that didn't want the owl, they shouldn't they shouldn't have had the actor.
yeah, he's an evil anti-hoot.
I mean, despite the fact that they didn't have the owl, I like the movie better. I mean, for the most part, I mean everything else is better.
To each their own.
You
But
just love old movies.
I like good movies. So,
And then
but
we refer back to 2 weeks ago.
that was a good movie.
No, nope.
Tammy, did you like the 13th Warrior?
Yeah,
Did you think it was a good movie?
it was pretty good.
What about you, Boris?
It had some good moments, but I must admit that throughout a major part of the movie, I kind of struggled to pay attention, and Kroll felt the same. So
Yeah,
I was kind of,
AKA not a good movie.
I was kind of glad I wasn't the only one.
I'm glad that I'm not the only one
You
who.
you struggled. You struggled less than I did to pay attention. You paid attention more than I did. You knew way more than I did. I couldn't pay attention to it at all.
Well, in any case, now we are at production. So, um, what did you think of production, Boris?
Well, as we have already said, it could be better if someone if someone made a remastered version of the movie. But yeah, at least this version I saw, this YouTube upload, it didn't seem very good. Okay, the English dubbing was probably okay, but yeah, in this version I saw, the audio quality just sucked. Now, about the wardrobe, as we have already mentioned, I I don't really have much of an opinion there because I haven't really done much research on how people were dressing back then. But yeah, the women looked very good, as we have already said. That much
I
is
think the
true.
women are what they got down good. I think that it's the men that was kind of questionable.
Uh, yeah, uh, the choice of male actors didn't really impress me, especially Holofernes. They should have chosen a much better actor for that role. Okay, okay, maybe not sure if better is the correct word, but someone with better chemistry with the actress.
Better acting chops, at least.
Mm, yeah. And aside from that, I guess it's, I guess, more or less okay for that time period, but could have been better.
Okay. What about you, Tammy? What did you think about the production? I know you somewhat stated it over time, but clarify it for us.
I thought it was all right. I mean, the copy we watched really wasn't the greatest copy if you're looking at that part. Um, I mean, I like the look of some of the costumes. They may not have been totally appropriate, but I like some of the look of them. Um, Storyline was kind of slow. There really was. I mean, like you said, we've watched a lot of movies like this before, so there wasn't really that much action in it. But
Well, the biblical story of Judith is a fairly short story, so I actually wasn't surprised with the pace regarding the fact that they wanted to make it an hour and a half long. I guess they did have to,
Create some shit,
yeah.
but
but not a totally like bullshit like storyline where half of it is not even true, and you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that pretty much it then, Tammy?
yep,
Okay, what about you, girl?
What was that?
What about you in production? What did you think of it?
Well, I've already discussed production every time I've talked. I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
It's, could have been way better in first time period, like you mentioned. Class Titan looks at. I couldn't think of anything that was the exact time period or off the top of my head, but I know I've seen other stuff. My family is big into watching classic movies. My mother, my uncles, everyone classic movies and old movies, and I enjoy some of them too. You know, but I mean, I prefer new movies mostly. I don't know. I like all the glamour. I guess the better
Well,
visuals.
I've seen Sword and Sandal films too,
What? Oh yeah, I have too. I mean, Ben
and
Hur. I think Ben Hur was '60s though, so
this
I think that was better. But
this has got to be a bottom of the barrel.
or Spartacus. Like there's tons of old movies that. Oh yeah, they were somewhat cheesy. Yeah, especially today's standards, but still way better than this movie. Like this movie just it felt like the action scenes were like worse than the movies that Forrest usually likes, the really low budget movies, but the rest of them were higher budget. So like, why would they have such a low budget for the action? It doesn't fit. So I much rather just watch a movie that is completely you know lower than me rated than watch something that just takes out the best part and makes it like that. And I think they've done better in some of the movies I've watched than they did in this movie. So just to compare it, I mean,
Yeah, I think they could have done way better, and I
yeah.
think I pretty
I mean,
much.
I'm not a director, so I don't think I could have done better. But I think there's plenty of independent people out there that could have done better.
Well, I must say, if I had watched this movie before picking it for this discussion, then I probably wouldn't have picked it.
Probably, yeah. Because I mean, like I said, my major thought through the whole thing was, I can't believe he picked this.
Yeah, like I said, I picked it because I really like that story in the Bible, but this movie didn't turn out to be what I expected.
It wasn't what I expected neither, and because it's a sword and sandal film, I normally like sword and sandal films, but this, oh god,
I love Sword and Sandal.
it was
I have to say that at least we're all in agreement. Unfortunately for the movie, it's two thumbs down.
cringe. I mean, I'm glad I know about the story now. You know,
Yeah, because now it'll be interesting to actually see a interpretation that's done what,
for
Mike?
actually a really good production of it. You know, I'm I hope that someone listens to this and says, "Hey, we can do this," and brings it to the big screen, and we see what they can do with the story. You know.
Whew, that would be interesting.
Okay, I think now we. I've already covered the music because the music seemed a little sketchy in the
There
background.
was music.
There was music, and
Well,
I suppose I should look it up or whatnot. Who did the score? Let's see, IMDb. Head of Tyrant.
He had never done anything before and never did anything after.
Well, we'll see. I would be curious to see if any of these actors went on and did anything else. But the music seemed to be done by Carlos Sabina. Oh, okay. He did some stuff. I guess there was some stuff on the Brothers Bloom in 2008. I don't know. Oh, okay. That's okay. So he was actually part of a lot of stuff. I guess he started with Mamma Mia, Che Impression in 1951. Was a conductor in many of these earlier Italian productions. What a Woman, Nero's Mistress, the Violent Patriot, Gwendolina, Marissa, Goddess of Love, Lazzarella. Oh, he was a musical director in the first Hercules with Steve Reeves, if I remember correctly. Yep. So he was part of the Steve Reeves thing, but
hmm.
that was slightly before, and he probably did pretty well for that. That oh, okay. I've heard of Herod the Great, which was another one that came out in 1959, and he also was part of Hercules Unchained, which was the second movie that Steve Reeves was in, involving Hercules. So, and I guess he was part of an uncredited conductor in the French Italian production of La Dolce Vita, which was probably one of his first known because he worked with Federico Fellini, which was a very controversial Italian director. And I have La Dolce Vita, I just haven't watched it. But then he did The Warrior Empress, was a conductor there, The Cossacks, The Grand Olympics, Girl Under the Sheet. He was a conductor for The Thief of Baghdad. I've heard of that one. Goliath and the Vampires. I've heard of that one too.
Huh.
That was 1961. Sword of the Conqueror, Samson and the Seven Miracles of the World. Looks like he was in a version of Aladdin called The Wonders of Aladdin. The Corsican Brothers, Sodom and Gomorrah. He was an uncredited conductor. I've heard of that one. Sword of El Cid, 1962. Slave Queen of Babylon. That one sounds interesting. Ursus in the Land of Fire. Hercules against the Mongols. Hercules, Samson, and Ulysses. Hercules against the barbarians. Crypt of the Vampire. He was a conductor, which was a Christopher Lee film, The
Hmm.
Castle of the Living Dead, which I also have. He was a conductor of Spartacus and the Ten Gladiators. So he was part of quite a few of the Hercules ones, and then later on he was part of a few of the uh, earlier Django films, like A Few Dollars for Django and The War of the Planets, and Ringo and His Golden Pistol, which is part of that Django stuff. Um, Going on further, Pray to God, and so he did a bunch of westerns for a little bit. Oh, he was a conductor for one of the segments in Spirit of the Dead, which was an earlier anthology. And God Said the Cane, he was part of. I'm just looking further. Oh, he was a conductor for The Godfather
Hmm.
and a movie called The Legend of Blood Castle. Mr. Hercules Against Karate. Okay, so he's had an interesting. Oh, he was a conductor for a movie called The Tenant, which I have. I just haven't watched it. And he was a conductor for a movie that you and I watched, Tammy, which was a western that kind of reminded us of uh, Coyote and Meat Roadrunner. It was called Coming at Ya. It was kind of funky. Let's see, The Pirate. Oh, do you remember a movie called The Bear? Well, that one he was a conductor of. That one was more prominent. I remember that one. But anyways, that is pretty much the stuff that I can recognize of stuff that he's been involved with, conductor wise. Um, I guess we are at favorites, favorite scenes. So,
Already said mine.
yeah, the
Yeah.
dancing girl.
And the line where um the other woman, she said, "I'm not jealous. She's just a monkey who can dance." That's where I laughed.
Uh,
The wife or the mistress or whoever the first one was, before Judith came into
that's
it.
right. She was sitting.
She was talking about Judith being was the a dancing monkey, which I thought that line was funny.
Yeah, because there was a woman in red that was sitting with uh, Holofernes, and that's the line that she said after she danced, wasn't it? But heading over to you, Tammy. Uh, Favorite scenes and or favorite character.
Uh, I guess Judith is my favorite character. Favorite scene?
You hate to say it, but the dancing part.
Not dancing part. I guess at the end, when she cuts his head off, even though you don't see her totally cut his head off.
Okay. What about you, Boris?
Well, my favorite scene, I guess it would be maybe the dance, or later on when there was this interaction between Judith and Holofernes when she was falling in love with him, and when we found out that he wasn't really all that bad, when we got some backstory on him, which made him a little bit better fleshed out as a character, which is why I kind of hoped, since they changed so much of the story, I hoped they would also change the ending, which is why I found the ending kind of disappointing. The beheading scene, if they had stayed more true to the original story, then the beheading scene would have been my favorite, but this way, with so many changes, especially because, like I already said, they even showed the beheading on the promotional pictures and stuff, so they kind of spoiled it for the audience, which is why I hoped there would be some unpredictable twist about it, which there wasn't, which I found quite disappointing. So yeah, those scenes that I mentioned would probably be my favorite. And favorite character, uh, Judith would also probably be my favorite character if she hadn't done what she did. Although I guess some people would probably be pissed if they had changed the ending. But like I said, I kind of hoped for that. But I did also like this version of Hall of Earth because, as I already said, he was a little better fleshed out and had some backstory and stuff. Although I must admit
Yeah,
I didn't.
we
Sorry,
kind of
what?
skated over. We kind of skated over that because he had actually said that his mother and father were murdered in front of him, you know, and he was actually a boy who had grown up in poverty, which meant that he had some poor upbringings, you know.
Oh yeah, and I generally like morally gray characters, which is why I found this version of the character interesting, which is yet another reason why I hoped there would be a different ending. But oh well.
Like, how would you want the ending to be? Would you want it to be like happy and like her being able to like live her life with Ferns or
No, I think
Well,
she should have killed him. We should have seen it.
sorry, what did you say, Kroll?
I said she should have killed him. We should have seen it.
Well, since they changed so much of the story, okay, there is this Croatian novel that I read, which also has Judith fall in love with Holofernes, and she kills him in the end. But that novel is more like an expansion of the biblical story. It doesn't really contradict the biblical story so much; it just expands it, while this movie just blatantly contradicts the biblical story, and it's more like a reimagining. So in this case, I think a changed ending would have been more fitting than in that novel. Maybe I would have liked it in this movie if they had maybe somehow faked his death and if the two of them had run away together or something like that.
oh, okay, so that would probably involve her um, explaining that dude, I have to like kind of like make it look like I've killed you. So let's fake your death and let's run off into the sunset.
Wouldn't that be interesting, actually?
It would have been interesting, but I suppose at least it wasn't exactly like the story of Aida.
Like,
Uh,
sorry, like what story?
the story of Aida,
Aida.
which is the story of a Nubian princess of Africa who was brought over by a son of a pharaoh, and his name was Radames. and they fell in love, and he was already affianced with an Egyptian girl, and their love was found out, and they were buried alive together.
Oh.
So, yeah, not exactly like that story. You know, the story of forbidden love, love that should never happen between two people, yet does.
Like brother
Uh,
and sister.
Like brother and sister. But that is not the case. In any case, I guess my favorite would definitely be Judith. Um, I thought she was, I thought she was pretty, and I thought she had some dancing skills. She definitely had some belly dancing going on there during that dancing scene. But like I said, this wasn't the only story in the Bible that had a beheading and a dancing scene, technically, in the story. Because
oh,
the story of John the Baptist was that there was a king who had a daughter, and she actually danced for her kingly father,
oh,
and it was her birthday. And her birthday wish was she wanted the head of John the Baptist.
oh,
So
yeah.
there are similarities between the stories. That's all. Um,
Yeah, although that's New Testament, but yeah.
yeah, isn't it funny that there's a beheading in the Old Testament and a beheading in the New Testament?
Yes.
So help me God. I guess there is barbarism in both. But in any case, my favorite scene or scenes, I guess I would have to also go with the dancing scene and the beheading. But for some reason, the fight between the cobras,
Hmm.
uh, and the
Ferret,
ferret,
or whatever that animal was.
yeah, it looked like a ferret to me.
Yeah.
But in any case, that is pretty much it. Did you went through yours, Boris, already, right?
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. So, did anyone else have anything else to add about this movie?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think so.
At the end
So
of the day, do we feel like Holofernes was a tyrant?
yeah,
Oh,
I've seen a hell of a lot worse. I suppose so, but I've seen worse.
I've seen
well,
worse too.
I mean, he does have the kid killed at the beginning, which is bad, but like I said, seen way worse.
He does have the kid killed. He does have the family killed and sacrificed for his gods. So,
yeah, good point.
and he lets others speak for him. So, yeah,
Well, yeah, there was a part of the story where they kind of made him in this movie. I mean, when they made him look like a tyrant, but then later they implied he was
made him
just
look more
working.
like he was more human.
Yeah, and like he was working for an emperor, which is a contradiction to the mere idea of him being some sort of ruler himself.
Yep. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed our discussion. I think we have come to the end of it, and hopefully, um, if you get a chance to see the movie, see it. But don't take our word for it, because you never know. There might be someone who actually likes the movie. Um,
Yeah.
and has more appreciation for it. I have appreciation for knowing and having knowledge of where it
Good for
originated.
me. There's no accounting for taste.
No, but we would like to know your comments, what you thought of our discussion down here in the comments, if you like, and we'll definitely have um, something else to discuss next Sunday.
Next
So,
Sunday, we'll move on to bigger and better things.
which you said you've already chosen next week's. Did you want to say what it was?
Yes. The Ghost in the Darkness.
The Ghost in the Darkness.
The Ghost in the Darkness.
Oh. Ghost and
Stars.
the Darkness.
Yep, which stars Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas, if I remember.
And it
right.
is actually based on a true story.
Oh.
The Ghost in the Darkness.
The Ghost and the Darkness.
A Ghost in the Darkness.
Correct.
Can you put that in our chat?
Yeah, I can put it in our chat.
The Ghost and the Darkness.
Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. So everyone say good night.
I'd like to say that I have a new YouTube channel if anyone wants to check it out. It's Crow's World at Crow's World of Solutions on YouTube. And thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Did you find it, Philippe?
So